So today we're going to talk about the one thing that you probably don't want to do for your lawn, but that you actually should do in order to have long-term success. And that one thing is a soil test. Now, the reason that I say that most people probably don't want to do this is because there's a misconception about soil tests that you don't really need to do one, or that they're really difficult to do, or that it's hard to understand the results. So today I'm out here at the new property looking at these plots. I'm going to show you how to do a soil test, how to send it in easily, and then we'll eventually look at the results when we get that back. So I guess the first question would be, why do you want to do a soil test? Well, it's really a roadmap for your lawn going forward. The grass is growing in the soil, obviously, so what's in the soil is going to be important for the health of the grass and to let you know what you need to put down to have the best success possible. Now, certainly there are many people who don't do a soil test and have an amazing lawn. So that's probably the reason why it gets confusing as to why this is an important step. Definitely it is possible to use some fertilizers, just go after some general things and to get a great lawn. But are you actually wasting fertilizers? Or in the case of me in the past, I was using some fertilizers with more phosphorus in them and I didn't really need that. And so what happens is then that starts to build up in the soil and it can cause issues going forward. So knowing what's in your soil to begin with, but especially knowing the pH, is going to be very important to your next steps. So if you've ever watched any soil testing videos in the past, you probably know I like to send to Waypoint. It is a place that has branches all over the country, but they do have a local office here that's not too far from where I live. That gives me quick results and it's a lab test that I trust. But now I found an actual soil test kit this year that uses that same lab, it uses the same type of test. But for those of you who don't want to go to the work of filling out a form, printing it off yourself and doing all of that to send it in, this is a kit that has that all done for you, and I'm going to show you how that works today. So sorry if you can hear all of these frogs in the background today. They're absolutely going crazy here in the early spring. This is the soil test kit that I was talking about. It's just going to come in a package like this sent directly to you. So we're going to open this up. On the front here you'll have the return label, so once you're done with this it will go directly back to them. So that is really nice that you don't have to do anything, it's already done for you. Alright, so now you'll see on the front of the kit it has your sample number and the lab number. So the sample number will just be important. That will be the number that matches later on this card that you get on the inside. Here you have your instructions, very simple to follow. And then like I said, on the back of this card it's going to tell you how to register your kit, your sample number, and this will be what matches the results that get sent to you. This is a soil sample probe that I've had for probably 3-4 years now. I really enjoy this one. It's worked well for me. It's held up, and as long as you don't do anything stupid with it, it should last you really as long as you have it. So this is a good thing to have, not only for your soil test, but throughout the year, checking samples on different things, checking where moisture levels are at. I use this more often than you would think. If you don't have something like this, you can certainly dig into the soil with a spade or cut out a piece of the lawn and get the soil off of that. But these are just really easy to have, especially if you want to take cores out of a larger area and mix those into one thing, which we're going to do today. The other thing that you want to have is just some of these gloves to make sure that you don't contaminate any of the samples with anything that might be on your hands, oils and things like that. It's not necessarily going to change things drastically by any means, but having these gloves to make sure that your samples are as clean as possible is just an easy thing to do as well. Looking across these plots out here, I could certainly just go test one plot and get an idea of that plot specifically if I wanted to do that, but for the point of this test, I want to take all of this area out here and I want to get a sense, how am I going to treat it as a whole? I got about 3,000 square feet of test plots. I want to know mainly what's going on in the soil in this area, what's my pH, what am I going to do this season to make sure that I'm using the correct products on this area. I'm going to go get probably 6 to 8 different samples and spread them out so I'm not going all in one area, just randomly move in a pattern. It doesn't really matter what your pattern is, but get those random samples and put them into a bucket, and I'll show you the steps after that. Okay, so you want to test down to about 6 inches. So what I've done, it's faint on here, you probably can't see it very well, but in the past I put a Sharpie mark right at the 6-inch mark so that when I'm going into the soil I know where to stop. So just putting a simple mark on there will do that for you, and then simply going to take the sample just like that. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take out this top part with any of the roots, and then from there just look through here and see if there's any major roots down into here. Just try to remove those as much as possible so that the sample is just the soil and not a bunch of roots and organic matter. So you're gonna clean that off as much as possible. Throw that in your bucket, and like I said, I'm gonna do a large area here to get a sense of what's going on all of these plots. And then we'll get this in the test kit after that. All right, now you have your soil samples taken. So come in here, kind of break these up, and I'm gonna sift through this material and get rid of as many of those roots that are still in there as possible. And I know this is gonna be more difficult depending on the soil type that you have. Some of them that are heavy clay are gonna be hard to break apart. Luckily for me, here we have a good mix of things. There's some sand in here. Just do your best to remove as many of those roots as possible just for accuracy. So you can see right here, like that's just a big piece of roots. So go ahead and get rid of that. That looks pretty good. So now inside of this kit, you'll have a soil collection bag. This right here will tell you exactly where to fill it to. It has your sample ID on the other side. So just fill up to that dotted line. Pretty good. Seal this off. This is just gonna go right into your kit. Make sure you keep your card, put that in there, seal this thing up, and it's gonna go straight back into the mail. After you've taken your samples and placed them in the mail, you'll find a website link on the card that came in the box, and you'll wanna follow that to set up your account. Obviously, I've already created my account, but you would click on Need an Account and go through the setup process. Now you will create a growing area. I'm going to name mine test plots. Select lawn. Select cool season or warm season grass and your preferred type of products. This will not affect your soil test results, but are simply to help with recommendations. The plots that I tested are 3,000 square feet. Now you will associate your kit to the growing area that you just created. The sample ID on your card from inside the box is your kit ID. After your kit is assigned, it will take about a week to get your results back, so this will show no results found until that test is completed and the results show up here. So it's a week later and my test results have come in. You should get an email notifying you that your results are in your account. Log back into your account, and at the top of the page you'll see View My Results. You'll see my growing areas here, and I'll select from my test plot growing area. As soon as you click on the results, you'll see a graph of those results. This is all the information collected from your samples in an easy-to-read format. Remember that these are not good or bad scores, they are simply a roadmap to a strategy for long-term success. The first thing you want to look at is pH. Your pH is going to be the most important result to look at to figure out the rest of your strategy. If this number is high, you would benefit from elemental sulfur or using ammonium sulfate as your fertilizer. If it's low, lime is applied to help bring this number into range. Although the range shows 6.2 to 6.8, I have never had a pH under 7 at my current property, and obviously I've been able to grow great grass. The optimal range is there as a target for ideal conditions. It does not mean if you are not in this range that you can't find success with your lawn. The next thing we're going to look at is organic matter. Again, optimal ranges are shown below, but I don't mind a slightly lower value that I have here at 1.8. With more organic matter, you will retain more moisture and nutrients in the soil. Capacity to retain nutrients, or your CEC value, gives you a general idea of how well the soil retains water and nutrients, and will help you get a sense of the texture of your soil as well. A lower CEC may be sandy or lack organic matter, while a higher CEC is generally a heavier soil or one that contains more organic matter. My CEC is 8.3, and this confirms what I've been seeing visually, in that the soil is more sandy and does not retain water nearly as well as the soil at my current home. This helps me to understand my strategy for fertilizers and watering and irrigation going forward. From here, you want to look at the macronutrients, phosphorus and potassium. You'll also notice that nitrogen is not listed on this test because nitrogen in the soil is very volatile, and your lawn will need nitrogen to perform its best. Phosphorus is an important aspect of a healthy lawn, and you'll see I'm slightly under optimal range, but nothing drastic. Potassium is another macronutrient that is essential to a healthy lawn. Again, I'm slightly under optimal range, but this helps me to understand which fertilizers I need to use this season. The rest of this test will look at your calcium and magnesium as well as your micronutrients. Micronutrients are needed in very small amounts, so optimal ranges will show much lower as far as parts per million. The section below that will list your annual recommendations. Nitrogen is listed at 3 pounds for the year, No lime is needed since my pH is not low. Phosphorus at 1 pound, potassium at 0.33 pounds. And I would benefit from micronutrient application. Below this, you're going to see your fertilizer recommendations. This is not an absolute that you need to find a fertilizer that is 1602, but if you'll remember from above, in my test I know I need to add some phosphorus this season and some potassium as well. So I will look for a fertilizer that contains these elements. So with this in mind, these recommendations are there to help guide you and give you examples of fertilizer options you might choose. Again, my focus at the beginning would be understanding pH and figuring out what you need to apply for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. I hope to be able to fill out the Lawn Supply Company product line in the future, enough to give you fertilizer options you will need in many different scenarios and figure out which ones to use as part of this section. So whichever method you would like to do, if you'd like to go straight to Waypoint, print out your forms, pay the shipping costs, and do all of that to get it to them, then you can definitely do that route. But if you'd like to do a kit like this where everything is in the box, everything is prepaid to send it back, I do have a 10% off coupon for this kit itself. If you'd like to check that out, I have a link in the description for that. I hope to have this set up for my lawn supply products in the future where you can actually use this test and know which products that you need to use. That's hopefully coming in the future. I'm working on that. I know that was a brief summary of how to go over a soil test, but if you want to dive way deeper into this, go over these test results, go over some more interesting things about my test plots and what's coming up this season, then make sure to stay tuned. I will be on the Thirsty Thursday show on the Grass Factor channel very soon. I will have an announcement for that before I'm on the show, but make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going over this test, going over some of the test plots, and some of the other projects that I have coming up this season out at the new property. So thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time.